But let's go to the Dow question that's in the room for some people who are listening and say, well, these guys are kind of engaged, but I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Please tell us, dumbasses, excuse my language, what the hell is Disciplined Agile? Where does it belong in the scope of Agile? How did you come up with it? What was your idea? Did we need another Agile system?
Yeah. So I'll tell you the origin story so we've turned into a Marvel film now, but so here's the origin story of Spider-Man. Yeah, so we got bitten by a radioactive spider, and then stuff happened. But no, we put our history with Rob. So what happened? So I joined IBM to help them originally to make Rupp more agile. And to work with that team, but also to bring Agile to Rational customers. And so when I joined Rational, I was very clear with them. I was not going to develop another methodology. I've been there, done that, had all the arrows in my back, was not interested at all. And they respected that. That was okay. So then, but a year or two in, me and my team working with customers, Mark and other business partners working with customers, and we invariably were being brought into hard situations, right? Like it's always the larger organizations working with IBM who are in really complex situations, who are doing really interesting things, and they were all in trouble. And they were all struggling with Agile because the Agile message wasn't working out for them, and they're all special, and everybody believes they're special, and that's part of the problem too. But and they're not, but they thought they were, but they're not. But they were in different situations, and so very quickly we started. So we're out there doing the work with customers and helping them, but then in behind the scenes we're talking and sharing ideas, right? And we came to the conclusion that there was a need for a methodology. Some sort of method framework. But the problem was everybody was doing things differently, regardless of the marketing rhetoric in the Agile community. There was the religious nonsense that they were spewing in order to sell their certifications. But then there was the reality on the ground, right? And we were reality on the ground type people. So it was clear there was a need for methodology. But it was also phenomenally clear and easily observable that everybody was working differently. So and you could choose, and some people don't believe this, there's still religious bigots that still have one answer for everything, right? The one methodology to rule them all. So now we're in Tolkien land. And it simply isn't true. Like you can choose to observe today that a small team works differently than a big team. You can choose to observe that a team that's co-located in a single room works very differently than a team that's spread across the planet. You can choose to observe that a team that is in a non-regulatory, fairly straightforward environment works very differently than a team that's in a life-critical regulatory environment, right? And I can give you, different scenarios, but this is let alone combinations, combinations thereof, which is what we actually all face. So one methodology, you can't be prescriptive, right? You can't say, thou shalt do it this way and it's all going to work out for you. So we had these two very contradictory observations. There's a need for methodology, but a methodology is not going to work out, right? And I was highly reticent to get in the methodology world again. So that was sort of the anchor around the neck for a while. But then we came up with the idea as well. It depends, right? Which I'd like to say that we came up with that really quickly because we're geniuses, but we sort of stumbled into it. But once we realized, because we're consultants, right? So we're constantly spewing it depends, but we didn't really take it to heart. And then DA, or Disciplined Agile Delivery at the time, was basically the it depends method, right? So then we started looking, well, what does it depend on? And then you start going down very interesting rabbit holes for a while. And then that's how we put together this idea of a lightweight governance across everything, because you are going to get governed, but helping people make decisions with these.
Well, so you acknowledged organizational situations that you can't change. There's going to be a mandate. There's going to be somebody in charge. There's a money giver. So as much as you want to be, all over the place,
and the money giver, where are you getting your money from? Come on. So there's all these agile fantasies of here's the way we want the world to work. And then there was reality on the ground of here's how it actually works. So,
Yeah.
the agile guys, they're no, we don't need to do any upfront planning. We don't need to do any planning. It's like, no, come on. Yeah, and the really sad thing is that because we were at conferences and we'd be going to people's talks and they'd be on stage spewing nonsense, and because they're towing the agile line, right? This is happening all the time, and then we go out drinking with them. We ask, so what do you actually do, man? Like, how do you make money? Because there's no way what you just told us this morning works. No way, we don't do that. And the damn customers, they're not really agile. And, I've got to, we end up doing, estimates up front. So talk about that, right? Just be honest with what you do. And they weren't.
So there was a period in many organizations, this is still the case, where the PMO gets to decide whether or not teams are allowed to use agile. And there's actually checklists to say, if you're a small team, co-located, less than 9 people, doing simple stuff, no need for governance, then you can do agile. And guess what? 90% of the organizations, because of one thing on the checklist, cannot do agile, so they're sucked into a bureaucratic process.
Yeah.
What we did is, like, if you're an FDA, if you don't do requirements, then you go to jail, right? So you can't, and it'd be real shame to say that there's no agile in the FDA. Well, what if we could do requirements, but we can do other stuff in a more agile fashion? Maybe our modeling can be more agile. Context. So be as agile we sort of say, be as agile as you possibly can in the situation that you find yourself in. Even if you can change circumstances so that you can be more agile within the organization, that's even better.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is it worth its weight in gold. The problem, though, is that it can be misunderstood because there's some paradoxical elements in there.